Hello, we are back, and today we are going to be talking about the entire Common App essay. So everything from start to finish, I'm going to give you my guiding outline, and we're just going to chat about it because I know creative writing isn't something that you're really taught in school, but think of your Common App essay as creative writing. You're the main character, and you want to really write a compelling story about that. So let's get straight into it. And hey, for those of you who may not know me, I'm Priya. I graduated from UChicago about 2 years ago now, and I majored in astrophysics. I'm just here to help you with your college journey, so yeah, let's figure out how to write your Common App essay. I'm going to break this out into a guiding outline that you can find in the description below, so of course take notes and add whatever you want to under each of the points in the guiding outline. A very quick overview before we go into the detailed analysis of all the steps of your college essay. You start with an introduction where you really set the scene and choose a moment to write about that reflects the larger topic of your essay. Then you go into context of that topic because they don't really know who you are, and your introduction is really just to set the scene and bring them into your story. The second paragraph's really where you give them context about yourself, whatever event you're writing about, if you're writing about an event or a moment, and just giving them whatever necessary context is required. So those first two paragraphs shouldn't be more than about 250 words. And then with about 50 to 80 words, you really want to pivot the story from, this moment and context to how it affected you in your life. That moment of change, introspection, growth, that's really what the bulk of your essay should be. So, 250 words for the moment, easing them in, some creative storytelling and context about your life. That pivot to growth should be about, 50, 80 words. And then you should have 2 paragraphs about growth. I think that growth is really important. You want to have 2 specific points that you want to really delve deeply into and introspect on. So whatever those points are, craft a topic sentence for each as you go through this outline video. That might really help you think about how to form your essay, as well as potential topics that may work. And your conclusion is really where you wrap everything up with a bow. It shouldn't be too long. I'd say like 50 words probably, where you really just sum it all up. And by sum it all up, I don't mean restate anything you've already said, but really look to your future. Everything that you've had happen to you on this journey is something that's really going to benefit you moving forward. So you don't really have to talk about college. Just talk about how you're enthused to take all of these learnings and experience even more growth like this in the future with whatever your topic was. So hopefully this general outline gives you an idea of how we're going to structure the rest of this video. So let's get into it. If you need specific advice on how to pick a topic, definitely check out my third video I posted on YouTube. It's like from a year ago. It's very, very old, but that might help you with picking an essay topic. My main point that I would say about that is pick something that is really meaningful to you. The simplest moments are always the most impactful. If you remember anything from this video, remember that. You don't need to write about a crazy story, but of course, if you have a crazy story, you could write about it if it was impactful. Think about the simple things you do that really makes you you. That's a great starting point. And of course, talk to your parents or someone really close to you. They might have a lot of great ideas about yourself that you might not think of first. We're going to start with the introduction. Here, you really want to set the scene of your story, and the last sentence of your introduction should slowly introduce the main point of your essay. So almost like a creative version of a thesis statement. I'm so sure that you've heard of the term show don't tell, and your college essay is a piece of creative writing that really should embody this. And like I said earlier, you're the main character, so the way you want your introduction to work is to ease the reader into a story. The person reading your application is reading hundreds of other applications, potentially on the same day. So when they get to your essay, you want your introduction to really set the scene. And when I say set the scene, you don't want to start with a sentence that directly tells your story, like, I love astrophysics since the moment I stepped into the Kennedy Space Center when I was a child. You don't want that. Rather than saying something like that, really ease into the descriptive nature of that one moment. Whatever moment you choose to write about in your introduction to ease the reader into the story, into your main point. It really needs to be something that's descriptive and something that brings them into your world. Almost like, the first chapter of any fiction novel where they really set the scene. person. Like in Harry Potter, Harry's under the cupboard, and that's how they kind of like even introduce the whole thing so you can visualize it. That's what your goal is with your introduction. They don't know who you are, where your story takes place, what your essay is even about. So you can't just go into, my family means everything to me, or I've always been the most curious person. You need to pick a moment that symbolizes what your thesis is. Whatever your main point that you're trying to get across in your essay is, think of a moment that really just is the start of it, or something that is just easily describable, so you can set the scene with that and lead into your main point. I go into very vivid detail on your college essay introduction because I feel like it's the hardest thing to write in my How to Write Your College Essay Introduction video. Your second paragraph is where you can finally describe what your anecdote or moment is really about. This is where you can go into more detail about the context, because like I said, they don't know who you are and you really need to ease them into your story. So whatever moment you chose for your introduction, here's where you can give them direct context into your life. What I see time and time again is that people end up describing things and giving context to their story rather than showing us the growth from your story. Like the reason you're picking whatever moment and the reason you're picking whatever story is to show them how it affected you in your life and how you grew from it. That is the bulk of your essay. That's like 60% of your essay right there, that growth, which we're gonna go into in the outline. But context is important because they don't know who you are. So you start with that moment in your intro, really make it descriptive, pop in, and then you bring them in. And now your second paragraph, context, whatever context you need to give them. So if your first moment was walking into the Kennedy Space Center and just like marveling in everything around you, the vastness of space, the interest that just consumed you after that, your second paragraph is gonna be the context to everything. And it's not necessarily about growth yet. Here's where you can just give them all of that background of what really drew you here to begin with. Of course, for them to understand your growth, they need to understand the context to what led to the growth. So think of it that way. What does the reader need to know to understand how impactful this was in your life and how you did so much because of it? Of course, too much context is gonna kill your essay, so that's why my rule of thumb is that your intro and your second paragraph out of your 650 word Common App essay should never be more than, I'd say 200 to 250. I think 250 words is the cap where you start with that moment, give them whatever context they need to know, and you know, that's essentially where you stop describing things and you go into introspection. Essentially looking back at your life to see what growth came out of this pivotal moment, this pivotal thesis that you're choosing to explore. So moving on to that third point is that pivot. You need to pivot your story from talking about that context and telling them who you are to pivoting to growth. Some change or some transition would have occurred because of the moment you're starting your essay with. I mean, you obviously chose it for a reason, right? The reason you're writing about your topic is because it has impacted you in your life. So we want to go into that growth, how it affected you, how you created tangible change in your life because of it. This transition is something that ensures that you don't really have a choppy essay, because of course this transition can be a sentence at the end of your second paragraph. It could also be its own paragraph, but really the essence of this transition should move from this is something that's important to me to this is what I did, or this is what resulted, the tangible change. Think tangible for your next few paragraphs, and this transition is that pivot from description to tangible change. So now your next 1 to 2 paragraphs, this is essentially your growth aspect of the essay. And I think this is the most important part of your essay because they really want to know what drives you, what motivates you, why you're writing about this essay. Maybe it's not about academics, which honestly, it probably shouldn't be. I don't think the best essays are about academics. If it's about your family or simple moments in your life, they want to know why this is important or how it affected you and what you did because of it. So think of 1 to 2 tangible points of change that you you affected in your life. These are your 2 points of growth that you're trying to emphasize. Create a topic sentence for each one. Your topic sentence is so important because you still have to have a sort of structure to your essay. So that's why we're going through this guiding outline. So you could kind of have an outline of how you want it to flow and then craft a story around the outline. It's really hard to just like start writing an essay from a blank piece of paper without an outline at all. So that's our goal here. This is honestly probably the most important part of your essay. Almost like a growth paragraph formula would be having your thesis statement and maybe describing it if you need to. Like, let's say your thesis is a nuanced point about how you started a student organization on campus that led to a widespread interest in, you know, physics in your school. If you need to describe that in more detail, take a sentence or so, but the rest of it should really be about reflection, introspection, how this affected you, why this was so important to you, how you felt going through all of this. They really want to know what drives you. So taking a step back to have a more generalized approach, let's say your introduction introduces an event that changed the way you think about something. Whether this is something you saw in your travel, something you saw in your community, or, you know, going to the Kennedy Space Center, whatever that event is. These paragraphs of growth would emphasize what you did to affect change given whatever event you mentioned. Whether that change is in your life or external, usually change is something that is both, because this event happened to you or this moment happened to you, and because of that, you affected change in your life that also influenced other people. And if you're having a lot of problems thinking about points of growth, rethink your topic, honestly, because this is something that's going to be going to every single university. So whatever you choose your overarching topic to be, it has to be something that's influenced your life. And it doesn't have to be a crazy story. It could be something so simple. Like I said, like stepping foot into a space center and, you know, wanting to go into physics. Simple things are honestly the most impactful. So it could literally be anything. The first time you heard your favorite band, the first time you stepped foot out of your neighborhood into another, like it could literally be anything. So I know you all have stories like that and memories that mean a lot to you, and you may not think about it every day, but they're there. So try to talk to people around you to figure out a topic that, you know, will lead to introspection, something that really did change the way you view the world. Of course, it could be interactions with people, it could be events that happened in your life, whatever it may be. After your points of growth, you go into your conclusion, and here's where you really just wrap it up and almost like look towards your future. So whatever happened throughout your essay, the points of growth, talk about how this is something you're gonna bring with you in the future. You don't really have to mention college exactly because the essay is about you, not about like, you know, I look forward to doing this in college. Like that's not really it, but it's about what you learn from these experiences that you hope to take with you on whatever journey lies ahead. Talk about how you're enthused to expand all of that growth, everything you've been through. So those are my general guidelines. I'd strongly recommend checking out that video I have about college essay introductions. And if you want, hearing my college essay as well as other people's on YouTube, like I'd strongly recommend just looking through essays because you're gonna see a similar format of this. This isn't the only way you can write an essay. This is kind of just a template that could help you understand the process of how to think about writing an essay, thinking through topics that might work in this flow. That's pretty much it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. I'm gonna post a Common App analysis video as well, so that should be up shortly. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys at the next video.